Well, hello everyone. We're coming up to 2 p.m. here in the UK, so I'm going to make a start. Welcome everyone to the Pearson Business Book Club. My name is Eloise Cook, and I'm the publisher for the professional business list at Pearson. I commission books, and I work with authors to develop their content. So each month at the book club, we choose a Pearson business or personal development book, and we invite the author to discuss it. They'll also give a masterclass on a key concept from the book. So our book this month is Stand Out by Debra Stevens, and if you haven't got a copy yet, you can download a sample of chapter of the book from the book club webpage. Hi Deborah.
Hiya.
We also want you to use the Q&A function to ask questions, and we'll get Deborah to answer these at the end. So Deborah, I'm going to give you a little introduction. You can chime in if there's anything I've missed. Deborah, you've been a trainer, coach and speaker for over 30 years, working with large companies globally and working with people to develop their key soft skills to help them advance their careers, develop their businesses and enrich their lives. And I've got a fun fact. I haven't had one of these before, but you were the lead singer of the Tweets, famous for the Birdie song, when you were just 19, and you were on Top of the Pops, which, if you're not in the UK, was a very popular music show that ran for many years. That's just fantastic. And you are also the author of another Pearson book called Brilliant Customer Service. So welcome, Deborah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, by the way, when I was on Top of the Pops, I was dressed as a yellow bird, so no one would have ever known who I was. But there you go.
We'll have to look you up on YouTube.
No, don't do that.
So as normal, I'm going to just start with a few questions for you before we get to your exciting masterclass. So tell me a bit about Stand Out. Why did you want to write this book?
Well, since I've been a trainer, I've always been sort of really keen to advocate the whole premise of soft skills. So that's what they are so called. Actually, they're extremely hard to perfect. But, you know, skills like listening, empathy, social connection, inspiring other people, the things that make us stand out as humans have always been my passion anyway. And I think it's really important. It was what it is for me, and I think it is for everybody, that to remember that we're not only remembered for what we do, we're remembered for how we do things. And I think what happened was I started to notice when I was out and about, when I was a customer or, you know, I was going to a restaurant or whatever, more and more robotic type behaviors creeping in. So things like not really getting eye contact, you know, getting an engagement, but it not being really genuine, that sort of slightly sing-song professional sort of approach. And I think I could also see, you know, friends in pubs and whatever, phubbing each other on their mobile phones. And by the way, I am no different. You know, I'm just as guilty at times of all of these things, but sort of creating this sort of human robot type thing. And that's sort of where the seed for the idea started to grow, that actually, you know, we needed to be more focused on our human skills. And then I did a bit of research, and I think Pearson actually produced a really great report about the future of work. And I started looking at that and how AI and automation and, you know, that was really going to be big and huge. And actually, you could either go negative or positive with that, see it as a threat. But actually, I started to see it as a positive, that we could really complement that. We'd have more opportunity to then connect and use our human skills. But then I thought, well, actually, we need to be careful, because if we don't use them, we'll lose them. And it's a bit like going to the gym. We need to flex those skills like muscles. And that's where the idea for the masterclass came in, because in the book, half the book is basically a course. It's a masterclass on those skills. So you need to stay in shape. And that's sort of where the sort of journey happened, really.
Fantastic. Yes, I know we spent a lot of time sort of crafting the sort of the sort of the skills and the title, so I do remember that quite fondly.
Yeah.
And what surprised you about writing this book?
Oh, there's a question. How challenging it was. It was, I mean, I thought it would be challenging, but it was even more challenging. I mean, I'm dyslexic as well. So, that's always causes a challenge. But also, I was surprised how enjoyable it was. I knew what I wanted to say, and I had to just really focus on letting my voice come out and it still sound like me, but still have a good structure and flow. And obviously that's where you helped an awful lot in terms of all of that. And then, of course, the pandemic came along right at the point where it was supposed to be launched. And that was a massive surprise. I mean, I don't think any of us were expecting that. And that delayed the whole publication and made it very different, and a very different feel. But actually, it made the book even more relevant because, of course, we were then trying to, work on how we do all these things remotely. And then afterwards, when we started to get back into the workplace, we were rusty. So it was, quite timely. And then the other surprise was, all the reviews and people's comments around how it's changed their life and how that helped them get a new career, and all very humbling and made it all worthwhile, really. If I help one person, it's made it worthwhile.
Yes, yeah, that's such wonderful news to hear. And so I suppose you've sort of said that a little already, but yeah, how do you want readers to feel after they've read your book?
I want them to feel really motivated to work on themselves. And when I talk about themselves, I mean the human self, and to see how important these skills are. They're often dismissed as being not as important, like things like empathy and listening. They are often the poor relation to speaking, for instance, presenting. And I think, I'd love people to sort of come away from reading the book thinking, wow, I really need to work on those things, and to see them as the skills of the future. In fact, if you think about it, they could even be the skills that save our future. That's sort of the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's a really good aim to strive for. So before we start your masterclass, you've got a poll that you'd like the attendees to answer.
Yeah, just to get them started.
Yeah, Rebecca, can you get the poll going? Oh, here we go. I'm going to answer this too. Right. So how long have we got to answer this? Should we see how it goes?
Yeah, it should. I mean, obviously you've got to read the quotes, but they shouldn't take people more than a couple of minutes to have a quick read and choose the one that just speaks to you, that makes you feel like, yeah, that's what I think influencing is.
Yeah, and it looks like it's on my screen, at least. It's not displaying the whole quote, but if you hover over each line, you can see the full one. So hopefully that will help.
There's no right or wrong answer, by the way.
This is very exciting. I can see the levels changing. This is great fun. We've still got some coming in, so just a bit longer. Okay, it's slowing down a little, but yeah, if anyone else is yet to submit their entry, please do. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Okay, so should we end the poll? Excellent. And are we going to save the results, Deborah?
Yeah, we'll look at them in a minute, but yeah, we'll just hold fire on just a little while.
Great. Okay, so over to you. Attendees, remember that you can use the Q&A function to ask questions. We will come to them at the end, but Deborah, let's take it away.
Okay, lovely. Well, the first thing to say is that we are all influencing each other all the time. I mean, right now, as we speak, I'm influencing you, and you can influence me still by the questions you ask, even but perhaps by what you said in the poll. It's a constant thing. It is really a life skill. And we learn from a very young age how to influence. I mean, I was thinking about my little granddaughter, Elsie. She learned how to get her own way from her mum, her grandparents, her uncles and aunties very early on. And at that point, when we do that, it's very much focused on what we want and our agenda. But then I think as we start to grow up, we realize that we have to influence different types of people that don't necessarily have that same emotional connection. So people like teachers, for instance, when we go to school, and then as we go into the workplace, we're talking about colleagues and our managers, leaders, then it might be customers or partners. If we run our own business, we're then having to collaborate and influence lots of different people around us. And I think the key, if you want to influence in an ethical, human way, and that's what we're talking about today, we're talking about how to influence in an ethical way for good, then we need to actually let go of our own agenda and focus on the other person. So if we imagine that really the influencing is about what the other person wants and let go of what we want, we can then start to seek that shared objective. And we can then put forward our ideas. And we have every right to, if we've done all the right things and we've really understood where they're coming from, and we're pitching it in a place where it's about them as well as us. And there is, selling and influencing often get bad press. A bit of selling cannot be seen as a dirty word, but it most definitely isn't if it's done in the right way. And if you do all the right things, then you've got every right to passionately put forward your idea, to sell something, because actually you will be talking about it in the terms of the people you're influencing. So it becomes about them. And that's sort of where we're going really with this masterclass. It's about understanding how we do that, how we put the audience or the stakeholders or whoever it is at the center of everything. And of course, this is a very short masterclass, and this is a very big subject. So I've picked something that I think will help straight away, that you could use literally straight after this webinar to focus on, and it is out of the book. So I'm just going to share my screen now so that you can see my slides. Just bear with me while I try to do that. And yeah, I seem to not have that option at the moment. Just bear with me a second.
Deborah, I've made you co-host. Can you do it now?
Yeah, I should be able to. I think it's because I am not on full view. So let me go on to full view and I can probably be able to see it then. Just bear with me a second, guys. This is the thing, and when if anything like this ever happens, by the way, if you're in a webinar like this or a meeting like this, and this sort of thing happens, the best thing to do is just be really vulnerable, open, human, and just say, I'm just working it out. And I think I finally worked it out. She says, hopefully, but for some reason, I still can't get it. And I'm not really sure why. So I'm going to just have another go at getting the slides up. So here we go. Slides are up. And now I should be able to. No, it's just not happening. So do you know what I'm going to do? I'll talk you through everything without showing the slides, because for some reason it's just not letting me share my screen. I'll have one last go. I'm going to have one last go.
Oh, here we go. There we go.
There we go. Here we go. I hope at that point in the audience there was a big round of applause and a phew, she made it. But right, let's thank you very much. So here we go. So these are the key things that we're going to look at today in this very short masterclass. We're going to look at the power and the sway. So often people talk about influence as being power and sway, and we need to let go of power being a dirty word, by the way. We're talking about the power that we have for good and how we might use our power to do the right things for the people that we might be trying to influence. And I'm going to share with you 5 key strategies, and we're going to look at those power sources. And the key tool I'm going to give you is the 3 Ps, and I'm going to finish with some top tips. But also, I have got 2 colleagues with me today. I have Joe Roberts and Drew Rice, who are my amazing performance facilitators. So I work with actors in the job that I do in my training. And these guys are actors, facilitators, coaches in their own right. And a little bit later on, I'm going to bring them on to do a scenario that you guys can have a look at. So you can actually see an influencing scenario and make some comments on that. So that's sort of where we're going with this session. So here are sort of 5 key influencing strategies. And I think at this point, I'm just going to talk through these, and then I'll come out the share. Fingers crossed I can get back into it. And we'll have a look at your poll results to see what you guys think influencing actually is. So the key things here, as I've been saying, understanding who it is that you're influencing, what's important to them, what type of person they are, or people, because it could be more than one person, is probably the most important thing that you need to do. And if you're preparing in any way, that's where I would start. It's really seeking to understand what's important to them. And then, you know, you can also carry that on by asking them questions and being really open and listening to what they've got to say. And if you're going to do that, when we talk about open questions, by the way, often people think open questions are what, why, when, who, how. And of course they are the open prefixes. But when we talk about open questions, we mean actually being really open to hearing what someone else has got to say. So instead of seeing it through your filter, you actually see it through theirs. You listen for what's important to them. And then if you do that, you then have the right to be clear and have conviction and belief and passion in what you want to put forward. And you obviously do need to understand where, you know, where you might compromise and where you might change your mind, being open, but also where you might not. And then we're talking about tactics here, but what we're really talking about is a way of putting forward those ideas that feels more palatable to your audience. And of course, you do really need to know what you want out of the whole thing. But let me just stop sharing for a second. And can I ask you just to launch the poll for me so we can see the results of the poll? Here we go. So you can see lots of different opinions here. And actually the favorite one, and isn't this interesting because this is actually what I've been talking about, isn't it? The real beginning of influence comes as others sense you are being influenced by them, when they feel understood by you, that you have listened deeply and sincerely, and that you are open. So it seems that everything I've been saying is what you really thought, at least 50% of you. I mean, some of the other quotes are also really good. I mean, influencing is about being genuine, and it is about making them feel important. And of course, you know, we want them to encourage them to think for themselves as well. And then this final one, you know, you do need to be thinking about how you put forward your information. So all of the quotes are relevant, but that final one, that 5th one there, is really summing up what I've been saying. And I'm just going to share my screen again. So the presentation is there now, and we can just let the results go now, if that's okay. So we can sort of take the results down. That's okay. And just have a look at this power and sway. So the power and sway is really what when the results are still up. Is everybody else still seeing the results, by the way? So I am. Maybe I'll just need to get rid of them. Right, okay. So the power and the sway. This is what, when we're talking about power and sway, we're talking about what you can do to persuade, but also what power you might have. And in a little while, we're going to see a scenario by the actors. And I want you to really look out for that. I want you to really look out for what power is being used. But remember what I said, this is about power for good. We're not talking about that sort of power that's coercive, although I am going to just show you that. So we have two power bases. One is our personal power, or our personal value, if you prefer that word, our personal value. So when we're influencing, we need to be thinking about how we might bring some of these in. So you can see these are the 5 key ones. There are more, but these are the 5 key ones. So if we have expertise in something, so if we're an expert in something, you've probably heard the expression, knowledge is power, then obviously people are going to seek us for that. So it's worth really thinking when you're influencing what it is that you know that could be helpful. And again, it's about thinking about it from the point of view of your audience, not from yourself. Or, people hate someone that is always talking about how great they are. But if you talk about how you might help someone with your knowledge and help someone with your expertise, then it actually becomes a very important value to them. And of course, your own personal charisma. And by the way, you absolutely don't have to be an extrovert to be charismatic. Some of the most charismatic people that really draw us in are actually introverts. If you think about Barack Obama, for instance, a very fantastic, whatever your politics are, a fantastic advocate and a fantastic speaker, and most definitely an introvert. So, you get great extroverted speakers and charismatic extroverts, you get charismatic introverts. So remember that it's about being authentic to who you are. And inspiration often comes from your belief, your compassion, your passion, your compassion, and your conviction in something. And of course, you really need to be thinking about doing your homework on that and getting very clear. And if you think about all the people that have inspired you in the past, a great teacher, or maybe you've been inspired to a great cause, it will be because their passion is infectious. But also they will be speaking your language. So remember that it's still always about the person you're influencing. Connections, who you know. You've probably heard that expression. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So you can use the people that you know to help bring in more influence. And this one is an interesting one. This is really about your reputation. And some people have reputation from what they've done, like writing a book, for instance, gives you immediate credibility and reputation. But you don't have to have written a book to have it. Every time you help someone, every time you do something for someone, every time you deliver something with passion, expertise, you put all of your heart into it, you will be building a reputation. You will be building up a stockpile of emotional bank account. And that is a really important power base. And then this one is more our positional power or value. And of course, this can come from our status, our authority, the job role we have, or it could again come from expertise. And again, if we're not thinking about this negatively, we're thinking about how we might help with this. And also rewarding, giving, helping, offering support is all part of giving those rewards. Now, the coercive one is in here because I wanted to mention it. It should never be used, but it often is. So it's just being aware of that. Avoid it like the plague yourself. But what I would say is it may very well happen that you might find someone else tries it on you. And the key thing here is to stay true to who you are and stay true to your beliefs. Again, resources could be anything that you can help with, anything that you can offer, anything that you can do to help the other person. And then finally, connection is back on here again, because status, positional value can also be part of the connections. So as I said, I've got 2 colleagues with me, and I'd just like to invite Joe and Drew to just say hello and come on the screen. And Drew, perhaps you'd like to start first just by saying hello and just telling them a little bit about how we use actors in the work that we do, and how useful it is to see a scenario maybe.
Hi everyone. Like Deb said, I'm Drew. I've been working with Remote Training Solutions, Deb's company, for about 8 years now, and the benefit that I see every single time we do a session is the reality that working with real actors can create. So we often, people get scared about working with actors and frightful of being asked to act, and by having us in a room or having us in a virtual room, virtual space, that gets taken away and you get to see something played out in a version of reality. So we often like to say that we're sort of like virtual reality without a headset. And yeah, it just is something that as actors, we have to learn about what stuff means between the lines and what the weight of a word of your words mean. And that's where we can offer our insight. You know, we work with professionals and companies all over the world, and we very rarely can tell them how to do their jobs. But what we can offer is how what they're saying actually means, and how it can affect people, and how it can influence people from there. So it's great to be on this session today, and we'll see how it goes. And hopefully everyone enjoys the session.
Well, Joe, I don't really think there's too much else for you to say, but you might just want to say hello.
Yes, I'll say hello. I've been working with Deb for about 5 years, but I've been doing this sort of work for 25 years. I know I look far too young to be saying that, but yes, I mean, the opportunity for people to practice things or to see things played out can't be underestimated in terms of its power.
Yeah, and that's why I've got Drew and Joe with me today, because what we're going to do is we're going to use them to show you a scenario, a fairly generic scenario where Drew is going to be trying to influence Joe. So the situation that we've created for this one is that Joe is Drew's manager, and what's happening is they're trying to work out what to do for their away day as a team. So they're having an away day, sort of couple of days actually. And they're taking everybody to work together to sort of reconnect after the sort of pandemic and sort of lots of remote working. And Drew has some very strong ideas about what he would like this to look like. So he's asked to meet with Joe so that he can try to influence her to actually see his ideas through, to actually listen to his ideas and maybe adopt those ideas. Now, what I want you guys to do, you can chat with the panelists. So you can use the chat function to put comments in that we can see. So while you're watching this, I'd like you to put in the chat box what you think Drew is doing that either works or doesn't work. Any comments you've got about what he's doing, to so we can have a look afterwards about, so we can read them afterwards and see what you think. So I'm going to go off screen, and I think if I go off screen, I'm going to try and spotlight both the actors so that you can see them side by side. And I'll go off camera and we'll see the first scenario. So don't forget, watch have a little look. Anything you notice about what Drew's doing that you think doesn't work or does work, in the chat box, and we'll have a look at it afterwards. Okay.
Hi, Debra, just to jump in. I don't think chat is working at the moment, but use the Q&A for the same thing.
Okay, that's fine. Wherever we can do it, that's fine. So let's use the Q&A. Okay, so I'll stop video, and Drew, whenever you're ready, good luck with your influencing.
Hi, Joe. Can I have just got a quick word with you about the team away day? Would that be right?
Sure, but to be honest, I've already given it a lot of thought.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted you to hear about this. Is it's a fantastic option before you decide. Basically, I think it could be really what we're looking for. It's exciting.
Go on.
Well, look, I found this brilliant place that has an option for outdoor activities. It's got an assault course. Don't have to worry though; it's not too difficult. It can be done in teams, and it's also got this sort of crystal maze activity, which just looks amazing fun. I just think it would be a great way to reconnect the team, you know, after such just the difficult last couple of years, really.
To be honest, Drew, it doesn't really sound like the right sort of thing for this team, with there being such a mixed group in terms of age. And I'm really not sure everyone wants to get muddy. I don't want to dampen your enthusiasm, but as the manager, I think I know the team. So I think we'll stick with what I already have planned. No,
if you just hear me out. The hotel that it's in is it's beautiful. You know, it's got great accommodation. It's got this lovely restaurant. It's got a spa. So it's just got something for everyone in the team, really.
Okay, but we want the whole team involved in the team build, don't we? That's the whole point. I tell you what, why don't you send me the information you have and I'll bear it in mind.
Okay, but what I was thinking, if you can agree to this, I can take it off your hands. You know, you mentioned how busy you are, and you know, you have said in the past that you wanted people to step up and take responsibility. So, you know, and after all, it's our away day. So,
well, look, I think I need more evidence, Drew. You know, I want more evidence of what the team really want to make this sort of commitment. So, like I said, leave it with me.
Okay.
Right, so I'm just going to mute, but I'm going to stay in the background, but you can hear my voice. So just looking at the Q&A, the chat, there's lots of different stuff here for you, Drew. I want to give you a little bit of feedback. So it's saying Drew's coming across as quite unprepared. And we've got Dawn, that was Michelle that said that. Dawn saying a bit negative by Joe, but it's actually Drew that's trying to influence Joe. And yes, let's just ask you, Joe, so why were you being so negative? What was going on for you there?
Well, I mean, I've already spent a lot of time thinking about this, you know, and really have somewhere, I've got a couple of options, but I've got somewhere in mind. So for Drew to sort of come in now and certainly talking about assault courses, I mean, I for one can't think of anything worse, actually.
Okay. So Drew, what's your thoughts on this? Because quite a few of the participants are saying that you weren't very clear or confident or prepared. Yeah, most of the comments are around you're not prepared and straight into solution. And yeah, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of research on it. I felt quite prepared. I wasn't really expecting such a sort of Joe to be so close-minded, really. But I guess I had my things I wanted to say, but I got kind of caught up in the conversation, really, rather than sort of sticking to my guns and actually saying the things that I had saved on my tabs and written down in my notebook to say. I sort of got lost in it, I guess.
Okay, but just so you know, there is people on your side, because a lot of them saying that Joe is quite negative and not really listening to you. And Loretta says here, poor Drew, exclamation mark. Just thought you'd know that. You need to know that.
Well, there you go.
You know, there is a team Drew out there for definite. There sure is. But Kane says here, Drew could ask Joe what she planned and then highlight the benefits of his choice, which was similar to Joe's. So that's an interesting option. So I think what Kane is saying there is that it's going to this point of view of understanding more about what Joe wants and what's important to her, because it did feel a bit like you were, I suppose, you know, throwing things at her, you know, and hoping some of it would stick. And we've got someone saying that you weren't really listening. And, you know, we've got, again, Laura says here that you weren't really articulating the benefits. And Sheena said you didn't pick up on her signals. So, yeah, so there seems to be that the key thing here was lack of preparation and also not really understanding Joe. So I'm just going to come back on camera for a second, and I'm going to just unspotlight our actors for a second. And what I'm going to do is share my screen again, and we'll come back to this, because the great thing about this is that with the power of theatre, we can actually allow Drew to go back in time and have another go. But what I'd like to do is just share a couple of tools with you, a couple of thoughts with you, based on what you were saying actually in the chat about your suggestions, and then we'll share that, and then perhaps, Drew, I'll come back to you and see how you feel about giving it another go.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay, right, so I'll just share my screen. Okay, so just moving this on. So one of the tools that we can use in our influencing is the 3 Ps. And this is straight out of the book, but it's something I talk about a lot in any influencing courses that I might do. And, you know, all of these are really important. So it is looking at the push behaviors here, what you should let go of that word, the word push, because it does have a slightly negative vibe to it, that if we push, people might push back. And of course, the thing is, if we don't do any pulling first and we push, just push, then we do get pushback. And that's exactly what happened to Drew. So first of all, I think you thought he was unprepared. Well, actually, it turns out he has done a lot of preparation, but he didn't really share that. And what he also didn't do is find out more about what Joe was looking for. So the pull behaviors should always, if you can, come first. And some of the key behaviors here are asking those open questions. But remember what I said, when we say open questions, we mean really listen to the answers, let go of your agenda, and just be open to hearing something that perhaps you don't already know. And maybe you might need to change your tact, or maybe you even change your mind completely, to just stay open to what you're hearing. And listening isn't hearing. So listening is very much about slowing everything down and taking your time, and remembering that listening is about understanding that you have a filter, but seeing through that so that you can listen without judgments and that you can really understand. And also, if we're really pulling, we're also inviting that challenge. So I think some of you were saying that Jo was quite negative and she was pushing back and she wasn't really listening to him. Well, actually, that's an opportunity. And there was another opportunity there for Drew to actually ask her questions about why she felt the way she did. Even in that moment, you know, sometimes we have to recover in these situations. We might not do things completely right, but we can always recover if we're asking questions and really interested in what the other person is telling us. So if we get their feedback and challenge, we can perhaps do something with that, and always remaining open. And then there is nothing wrong with being clear, concise, having conviction and confidence in your ideas. But you need to come with it to bring proof and evidence with you so that you've got something to deal with any challenge or resistance. You know, I think that Jo, you know, she needed more evidence that actually the team were on board with this, that the team would want something more interactive. You know, maybe they don't want the assault course, but maybe they do like the idea of the crystal maze. But she certainly wanted more of that. And, you know, it is okay to stand firm on things that you strongly believe in, but we always need to keep the other person or the other parties in our thoughts. And then finally, this thing's potential value is basically what some of you were saying around benefits. It always needs to be linked to what's important to them, because that's what influences people. The truth of it is we're influenced by what helps us, what makes a difference to us, what our interests are. And Jo, it's not coming from a bad place. She wants to do the right thing by her team. So that's the key thing for her. So we've got to find that common ground. We've got to link back our ideas and thoughts to what's important to them and make sure that we present benefits. So Drew and Jo, if you could just come back again for me, that'd be great. And I'm going to spotlight you again. So just spotlighting Jo as well. And I'm just going to go off camera, but you'll hear my voice. And Drew, I just want to, your spot. So, there we go. Drew, just want to ask you, how do you feel about having another go now, based on all the advice that the lovely people out there are giving you, and also based on what I've just said?
Yeah, I think I feel a bit more confident about it. I think what I need to do is ask some actual questions and find out what Jo's looking for. Okay. And I've got tons of evidence as to why this is a good idea. So when the opportunity arises, I can give the evidence. But let's try and find out some more information and try and get something out of Joe.
Well, with the magic of theatre, we are able to go back, do our version of Groundhog Day. So this is Drew's sort of second chance at having a go. Now, this might not also be perfect. Remember, being human isn't necessarily being perfect. It's being the best you can be, learning every time you do this. So he might not be perfect, but he'll give it a go. And again, if you wouldn't mind putting some comments in the Q&A so that we can give Drew a little bit of feedback at the end, just very quickly. So it's over to you, Drew. Good luck.
Hi, Joe. You're right to have a quick word about my ideas for the team away day. Is that all right?
Sure, but to be honest with you, I've already given it a lot of thought.
Okay. What were your thoughts?
Well, I think it needs to be challenging and bring the team together, as well as actually give people a chance to relax and pamper themselves. It's been a really tough couple of months, hasn't it?
Yeah, totally agree with that. Well, so what have you come up with? Anything good?
Well, a couple of options. There's a great place in Ware in Hertfordshire, so not too far away, which looks fantastic. It has a spa and a golf course. And the only thing is we might have to create the challenge part of it. That's all. But it's a great price.
Okay. Sounds good. I just want to ask, how important is it that the venue is close to London?
I don't think we want it to be too far away, but I think a couple of hours or so is okay. Why?
Well, I think I could have found the perfect place. Really, I mean, it has everything you said you want. It's got great accommodation. It's got good food. It's got a spa. But not only that, it's also got the challenge aspect built into it. So it's got an assault course, and it's got do you remember the show Crystal Maze?
Yeah.
So it's got a Crystal Maze themed activity, and that I looked at it. Sounds like it's great fun. The only thing is it's in Oxfordshire, so it's a little bit further away, but it's definitely under the 2 hours that you just said. So.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounds interesting, but I'm a bit worried about the assault course, though.
Yeah, no, I understand that. When I had to look into it, I was a little bit too. But what are your concerns? With that?
I think that would be too difficult. I'm scared we'll all look stupid. There's a few of us that aren't spring chickens anymore.
Right, okay, yeah, no, exactly my thoughts. But I did look into it. I did check. I had a look. I checked it out. It's very mild. It's more about working as a team, creating a strategy together rather than being totally about physicality. So,
okay, is it expensive, Drew?
What's the budget?
Well, we can't go over £10,000.
Well, okay, well that's perfect. I mean, it easily comes under that. They've said they've got a special deal at the moment. I mean, I can put a provisional booking in, with no cancellation fees. I've had a look at it already, and then, as long as we let them know by the end of next week, we can cancel it without any fees. So.
Oh right, okay. Well, yeah, do that. Send me the details just in case, and we'll double check and have another chat before the deadline.
Okay, brilliant. Cheers, Joe.
Okay.
Play. Okay. Not too much in the there's a few things in. Let's have a little look. Let's just have a little look. So we've got Michelle saying that this time you asked about her thoughts, Drew. And most definitely Joe was very sort of cooperative, and it became much more of a collaboration, didn't it? And then we've also got Michelle saying that you're getting more buy-in, and the questions were really sparking a conversation. And Loretta said, really great job of listening and addressing Joe's requests and questions. That's nice feedback, Drew. And then we've got Michelle again saying that you're acknowledging the concerns. And Kane said, great second question by Joe, highlighting it does cater for everyone rather than a few. And Michelle just says at the end in capital letters, way better, exclamation mark. So well done, Drew. Big round of applause for Drew.
Appreciate the feedback, everyone. It helps. It definitely helps.
I'm just going to come back on camera again. And guys, thank you very much for your input and help. And I'll let you go back incognito for a little while.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Just going to remove your spotlight. Just bear with me. That's it. Okay, so key things there. You can see the difference. I mean, you know, this is a scenario, of course, but what this does is it highlights the difference. And you know, you're not always going to get magic wand differences, but certainly we're going to get a much better result. And just looking at some of the other comments, you know, Russell saying about how much more excitement there was around the ideas. There was much more of a dialogue and much more evidence. And that's what we want. We want it to be a collaborative thing. So influencing, remember, it's not just about you. And I'm just going to show my screen one more time, and then I'm going to hand back to you, Eloise, because I think there might be some questions on this, on these 3 Ps. But these are my sort of top tips, really, for you. And it might be really worth taking a screenshot of this. I know this is being recorded, but take a screenshot of this and think about some areas that you might want to develop and work on yourself. Because the first thing is to work on those power bases, to think about where your strengths are. You know, are you particularly, are you a brilliant listener? Are you, you know, are you an expert in certain things? So really think about those power bases. And I would say, think about them every single time you're wanting to put forward an idea, because they will change depending on what you're trying to influence and who you're influencing. This one's a long-term one. You can start this straight away. Start working on your reputation. In other words, look for ways to help people with no agenda. Listen to them. When you do something, do a great job. Do a really great job. So they start to build trust in you, and your emotional bank account is high. So when you do want them to listen, they're much more likely to. And that's where you can build those transformational connections. You know, listening is one of the best ways, if you do it well, to actually do that, to create those connections. When people help you, appreciate it. Thank them for it. Find value in it. Appreciate it. Because again, that will build that emotional bank account. You can practice your listening anytime. Practice it with the people you love. Give them that time. Practice it when you go and get a coffee. Practice it when you go and put petrol in your car. Practice it. In the book, there's a whole week's worth of exercises on how to develop your listening. And then finally, when you're influencing, don't look for the win. A lot of people talk about win-win. Actually, look for the we. Rather than the win, look for the we. And that's the sort of final thing I'm going to say on this. And I'll stop sharing my screen and invite you back in, Eloise, to see if there's any questions.
Wow, that was fab, Deborah. Excellent. And thank you, Joe and Drew. That was the first for us. We've not had a sort of actors doing a role play before. That was really exciting. And we got really good feedback, didn't we, Deborah, on the...
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, lots of engagement. Thank you to everybody. It makes us look a lot less stupid, but otherwise if we get no comments, it's a bit strange.
And yeah, I just wanted to just quickly highlight that the book Standout is really practical, because you've got these sort of weekly sort of plans for people, and the way you've broken it down is just so useful. So rather than sort of having to think about, well, what am I going to do today, you've kind of outlined it for them. So it's really good concrete stuff.
Yeah, and that was really important to me, because often, you know, with we can read a book and we get really excited and then we don't know where to go with it. So it was really important to have those exercises. Yeah.
Right, so if anyone's got any questions, please send them in. We've got a couple already, and we've actually got one about the writing process, which is new.
Okay.
So let's give this a shot. So what key writing skills did you use to write it, and how did you overcome any issues you had getting down your thoughts on paper?
Oh, well, I think first of all, you have to know yourself really well. So I am very much a person that likes ideas to emerge. I need to have a deadline. I need to be under a bit of pressure. So you need to set yourself mini deadlines. You need to allow yourself to work the way that's best for you. For me, like I said, I had to just go with the flow, trust myself. And also, I did a schedule and I mostly stuck to it. So I created my own sort of pressure on it. I had a lot of help from my editor, who is here, Eloise, because she set me deadlines and gave me loads of feedback. That's the other thing, is ask for feedback. I was really open. There's a lot of talk in the book about feedback. So I had to be open to it myself, and it can be really tough to get critical feedback, but that's what makes things better. And in terms of getting my thoughts down, I think what I did is I would really think about it first, just let it all flow, and then go back and structure it and move things around, and then take feedback and then move things around again until I was happy with it. But I wanted it to be really approachable, the book. And I think a lot of people have said to me, it does sound like me when they read it.
Yeah, and that's so important. I think for all kinds of business books, we want it to feel engaging. We want it to be something that people want to read. So yeah, we want that tone of voice to come through. And here's another one. Who is this aimed at? Is it someone at the beginning of their development, or for those who've been working for years and need to change or adjust to the new way of working?
Oh, both. Absolutely. To be absolutely both. So first of all, whoever asked that question, if you're in that category of, being in the workplace for a while and being good at what you do and having success, then that's fantastic. But you know what? It's literally the same as getting fit. You're fit, you've run that half marathon, you're really feeling good. And you know what it's like, work gets in the way and time gets in the way, and little by little you don't go to the gym, and then bit by bit you get less fit and your muscles start to go and you get less motivated and you get complacent, and then it's incredibly difficult to get back to it. And I would say if you're in the workplace, you probably need to be even more mindful and more self-aware about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if you're at the start of your career, I so wished I'd been able to learn all this stuff when I first started my career. I've had to learn it the hard way. And of course, you're still going to do that. But if you can get a heads up, why not? Even going to the interview, if you can develop some of those key skills, when you go for an interview, you will really stand out. Imagine if you went to an interview and instead of them asking you all the questions, you were able to ask them some back, that would be straight away, you would be that one that was that bit different. So I would say definitely both.
Great. And you mentioned that we should be sort of listening to what the other person is doing. What do you do if you don't feel like you're getting much from them? Have you got any tips there?
Yeah. I haven't got a magic wand, and I most definitely have been there where I got a lot of resistance. And what I would say is that all you can do is, first of all, do as much preparation as you can in terms of understanding the stakeholders or the people you're trying to influence. Have lots of evidence up your sleeve and ideas up your sleeve for when you get stuck. When you get stuck and it stops, you've got like a wall, go to understanding. It's very tempting for us to go to that place of, they're not moving, they're not changing, and that's not fair. But actually, I would go to much more, why are they feeling like this? What's going on for them? Asking as many questions, seeing if you can find any little chink in the armor, if you like, or any in that you can find. You may have to compromise a lot. You may have to go away and come back. You may have to completely revamp your idea, but never give up. You can always keep at it. I've got one quick example. I remember once trying to get a company, because I had to repitch for a load of business, and they were very set in their head that they wanted to try something else, and it looked like I was going to lose it altogether. And through asking the questions, I discovered that they wanted more proof that the impact I'd had on their business had been significant. So what I did is I went away and gathered loads of video testimonials, came back to them with all this evidence of people I'd worked for, and it opened it right back up again. And I ended up being still part of the process. They still went with something else. So I had to compromise, but I still got something. So yeah, that would be my top advice.
Great, great. And last question, I think, in terms of influencing mindset, what advice will you give to someone who is a good listener and curious to learn the other side's interests, yet hard to say no and prone to compromise what she wants?
Oh, that's me. I mean, the thing is, again, it's about, and again, whoever said that really knows themselves. So that's the first step, is to understand that's where you are, that you are a people pleaser, or someone that wants to really help and make a difference. And that's me. I do that all the time. And I sometimes can give too much. What I would say is set some parameters for yourself. So think about what your walk away point is. So where you might go to, so that you don't go too far. And if you do that and you get to that point and you give more, then, you know, that's not about, that makes you a better person. It means that you're doing as much as you can. But just have some boundaries, because otherwise it can tip into the extreme. When it does that, then that's when you start to feel resentful, and you might find yourself trying to get back at those people. And it can become a bit passive aggressive, because I know that happens for me. I give, I get nothing back. And then I get really resentful. And actually, it was my fault for giving too much in the first place.
Very wise, very wise. I said last question, but one more's come in, and I can't refuse. What role does optimism and pessimism play in this? I thought that was an interesting one.
Optimism, pessimism. Okay, so we could flip that a bit, couldn't we? And think pessimism could be more about, you know, expect the best, prepare for the worst, if you like. So there's nothing wrong with being pessimistic if it's about preparing as much as you can for any challenge you might get. I think we have to go into these things believing that we can, you know, make a difference, or we can have our idea adopted, because otherwise there's no point. But I think the pessimism keeps us real, grounded, realistic. So I would say there's definitely a role for it. But yeah, I would say don't let the negative thoughts creep in before you've given it a go, because that's the other thing, is we can often take that in with us, and we're beaten before we even start. And again, I know I've done that, where I've gone in thinking, oh, last time they said no to my idea, so they're going to say it again this time. So just be aware of that. You know, think about those things, think about how you can mitigate that. So yeah, so expect the best, prepare for the worst.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we're also getting some lovely feedback from people saying they've really enjoyed the presentation. So thank you, Debra. It's been really good. I'm welcome. Excellent. So I'm just sharing my screen again, just in case people want to sort of stay in touch with you. You've got your website. It's actually for the book, isn't it? And then I've got your LinkedIn profile as well.
Yes.
Excellent. So I do hope you'll sort of connect with Debra and find out what she's up to. And don't forget that you can download the sample chapter for Standout on the website, and also sign up for our next session. Great. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's sort of attended live, and anyone watching this on demand. I hope you'll tune into our next session, which is on Tuesday, the 20th of September at 2 p.m. UK time, when our book of the month will be The Mentoring Manual by Julie Starr. And Julie Starr's masterclass will be on Be a Better Mentor, 45 minutes that will make a difference. So that sounds very exciting. As I said, please sign up to our mailing list, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.